About information unpacking process by the brain nuclear genome creators. For these networks lead me to very old reflections on how UV copies are formed in our consciousness. Are all four of these networks active simultaneously, or are they active selectively, sort of conditionally, alternately? This is a very important question because considering multipolarization fact and the fact itself, one could suppose that every stereotype should have available all possible propositions in order to displace towards various vectors. UV copy is produced only during its realization. Before that, it represents full form, roughly speaking thought form, which is full form indeed, meaning some conception. Once some neuronal systems have been activated, they generate several conceptions in the perception system. One can form an UV copy from these conceptions. After combining these conception parts to something average, this will be what you implement in your physical, mental, emotional activity specificity. Meaning, you convert it to some feeling with your reaction. You could react on some request with a tiny smile, on the other one with silence, on the third one with answering some crap, on the fourth one with punching someone's face. Depending on which brain parts are mostly developed for activation of this or that neuronal network, we form so-called UV copies from these reactions. Meaning, they are realizational forms, something which has been added to our subterranean ODS as the experience. Everything what has not been added as the experience is left in the NVK. It has been dissolved, electromagnetic constituent, which has not been activated via focus of close attention, is removed and converted to NVK former shape. Could you be so kind, however briefly, to follow schematically from the information unfolding in the nuclear genome to the decision-making of impulses supply on the peripheral nervous system in order to accomplish some muscular, mechanical actions? Because these four networks enable to think about how multipolarization mechanism occurs at various information unpacking. Each instant, we unpack in principle everything, though we choose one thing. Has all this been unpacked in the different brain parts? In the different brain parts. So, who chooses some particular scenario then? This is done by the creators of that cortex part which has been activated on this information to the most degree. Frontal cortex, orbital cortex, dorsomedial, ventromedial cortex, dorsolateral, ventrolateral ones could activate on this information. You shouldn't forget about cingulate cortex, which is located close. You shouldn't forget about insular zone, which creators play also great role in producing, especially emotional reaction. Temporal lobes also participate actively. Among all these creators' activity, the decision is made by those who are active to the most degree. In other words, they are developed, meaning their neuronal system is stabilized to the most degree, deepened due to its usage frequency. In another case, let's suppose basal ganglia take the own decision. Amygdala, the own decision. Hypothalamus, the own decision. But all these decisions are supplied via feedback to that cortex part, creators of which have the most activity. And they produce the final version of these decisions. We choose this one. We will obtain determinism model then, if we denote some center, at least in every single instant, as the only one which takes a decision. No, you confuse. This is not a center. The same orbital frontal cortex consists of the huge number of different protoformic, differently developed neurons. Any decision accepted is the result of the simultaneous realization of the neuronal creators of various development directions and various synthesis directions. We can accept completely non-Leumichesky decisions in one part of orbital frontal cortex and accept Leumichesky decisions after slightly shifting somewhere. Well, this happens even not this way. Neurons in charge with some qualitative decision can be located at a great distance from each other. They don't have to be together and constitute an ensemble. Although this is also peculiar to them. But neurons don't work in small groups. They work on the principle of resonational interaction. Some orbital cortex neuron, this cortex part is located behind eye sockets both in right and left hemispheres, is in charge with such sort of function. The surrounding neurons are in charge with the other sorts of functions. Through some distance, for example, a quarter of an inch, another neuron is in charge with the same functions as this neuron is. There are hundreds, thousands of such neurons. Together, they react mostly on this information. Exactly their activity degree, which is potential of their sort of assertiveness. Besides, they draw this from a scenario in NVK they have synchronously reacted to, induces the others to take exactly this decision. Here, the specifics of already available chains, worked ones, is of even greater importance. The brain is accustomed to work on the lowest cost principle, on the standard behavior model. Yes, if we can answer something with the common movement and do not spend energy on thinking, analysis, logics, comparison, then we do it. Again, creators of some cortex part can accept a certain decision. But we having activated, suppose striatum, hypothalamus out of a habit, respond by contrast with some automatic movement. For example, someone has thrown a grenade to us. We see the grenade flying. We have caught it out of a habit. Logically, we shouldn't catch it, but run away as far as possible and hide behind something. But the habit works earlier, before logics and analysis creators switch on. Now I try to imagine neuronal networks formation during information unpacking. Why have I stuck with nuclear genome creators and rotational shift duration from 1/250th to 1/400th second? I get the feeling that nuclear genome creators unpacking some information unpack it differently, because various neurons have different configurational features. Accordingly, through creators-interpretators levels, the other types of wave dynamics, biochemical processes appear. In such way, desynchronization in this information interpretation appears. Disorganization, but assuming that there are some similar unpackings between billions of nuclear genome forma creators, they should, in principle, enter some synchronous process, which we can conditionally name as coherence. This happens not instantly, but successively. Therefore, this neuronal network coherent structure starts to grow, and this also needs some time. This coherent process behavior. Coherence means potential opportunities, non-locality. In addition, does synchronization of more and more new nuclear genomes into some united structure take place? The longer it continues, the more quantity of synaptic connections is involved into this process, the more broad neuronal network we obtain. This takes more time. Correspondingly, we shift gradually from 1/400th to 1/250th second. That is, the rotational shift becomes the longest, but the quantity of the information processed increases. The quantity of significant factors becomes bigger at the analysis. At what cost? Due to different protoformity of the neurons of various brain parts. Due to the fact that neurons switch on, which are able to process information much faster and by much greater volumes than the other neurons. After all, there is a huge number of various neurons types, starting from the simplest to star, spidery ones, and so on, not to mention granular neurons, which structure provides higher informational capacity. Their microtubules and neurofilaments are able to accumulate and transmit much more information quantity per unit time than the other neurons, let's say pyramidal ones. One should mention here that some information volume is needed for implementing certain reactions, and another volume is needed for the other reactions. Starred neurons, granular neurons, are activated in intellectual thinking processes which possess higher memory capacity and information transmitting, and the simpler neurons are activated in implementing some actions, motoricity.